evening, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Demir. I missed you all. I wasn't on last Monday. I was traveling. I was with a client on Monday all day and was traveling and didn't have an opportunity to hop on. But I am here now, and it is so good to be back on live. I really do look forward to these lives because when I'm having these lives, it really helps me in terms of engaging my thinking as well. So, what are your thoughts? It's time for what are your thoughts, right? And our topic today, I'm really excited about because it is a source of inspiration for me and really drives the work that I do as a leader and in supporting leaders. So, hey, everybody, this is Dr. Zamir, and my passion is empowering school leaders or leaders, period, either a school leader or a district leader. If you're in a leadership role, my passion is to help you lead with confidence, right? So you can transform the work that you're doing and transform the culture of where you are, right? So as a product of public education, I am an advocate for it, and I believe that we have the power collectively to make the changes that are needed, especially for the most marginalized students and people within the community. So I believe, like Margaret Wheatley says, that we have to be brave enough to have the conversations that matter. And I'll push that and say courageous enough, right, to create the disruption that's needed, because we know that disruption precedes transformation all the time. So we need to collectively come together and act now. So the purpose of this weekly live, what are your thoughts, is to talk about current issues and the impact on leadership, and to show you how data can be infused in these pieces. And so today I'm really excited because I get to showcase an article that I wrote for Education Week, titled "How to Let Your Values Guide You as a Leader." Okay, I will drop the link in the chat or in the comments at the conclusion so that you can feel free to read it on your own and share your thoughts on the article. So in this article, I am sharing 4 steps on how to reconnect to your why, right? And why that is so important to do that, right? And so one of the pieces that I like to lift up here is that um how you let your values guide you as a leader is going to help you help you really understand the need for reflection and how this reflection can help ground you in your leadership, right? Because you are connecting to your core values. And so knowing and realizing that values are the foundation of effective leadership, actually in Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I believe it's law number 7, the law of solid ground, which is your values, right? And establishing trust. So values are the foundation of effective leadership. They shape your decisions and define your leadership style. Okay. You cannot separate yourself from who you are when you're at work, right? You're bringing your whole self, which means you're bringing everything that comes with it, your values, your thoughts, your emotions, everything is coming to work with you. Okay. It can be very complex at times. And sometimes, if you are unaware, it can create some confusion and actually burn you out. Um, and so today we're going to delve into how you can identify your core values and how to align the decisions with your core values as a leader. Okay. So first, let's define core values, right? Core values are the deeply held beliefs that drive your actions, right? And sometimes values come from um, unpleasant situations, right? Sometimes they come from happy situations, right? And they go back as far as your childhood. Your values have been groomed since the moment you were born, right? And they are groomed in very significant ways. A lot of my values have been born out of unpleasant situations, right? A lot of trauma. Some people, like many people, right? These situations create who you are deeply inside, like the beliefs that you hold and the actions that you take in regard to those beliefs. So they are what we turn to in moments of uncertainty. Okay. Your values are what you turn to in moments of uncertainty. So I remember a time when I had to make a difficult decision about implementing a policy as a school leader. It was unpopular, but it aligned to my core value of equity, right? And even though it was tough, sticking to that value brought about positive change because I was consistently operating in that value of equity, and my staff saw that I was consistent with that. And so it meant that they can trust me, right? I was establishing a foundation of trust. And so now, how do you identify your core values? It starts with self-reflection, and this is what the article is talking about: is self-reflection being an essential part of your leadership journey. Okay, that uh, when there's a disconnection, you might find yourself leading haphazardly without a clear sense of direction or purpose, and that is the last thing that you want to do, because one, for your own mental and spiritual health, it is just not good. It is completely counterproductive to be operating without a clear sense of direction or purpose. And two, the people in which you are leading are going to lose all faith and trust in you. And that is hard to recoup once you lose that, right? Um, and so think about past decisions that you've made and what motivated them. I need you to consider that. What past decisions have you made and what motivated them? Okay. What principles were you upholding when you made those decisions? And again, collect some data. You know, I'm going to talk about some data. Data is the thing that I love to talk about and love to connect to, because everything around us is data and can be used as a source of data, both qualitative and quantitative, right? And so when you're thinking and reflecting on these questions about what principles are you upholding, uh, identify, collect some data so you can actually ask feedback from a colleague or some mentors or even your family, right? On like, how do I react when, what are some things that you see pretty consistent when I'm making a decision, right? They often will see things that you may not see, right? They will often see patterns in your actions that you won't even notice that you're doing, right? If you're unsure what your values are, how you're leading with those. So it's really important for you to know and identify those core values, because the next step is about aligning your decisions with them, okay, with your core values. And this means consistently making choices that reflect your values. I like to call it value mining. And even when there are difficult decisions to be made, if you're depending on those values, your value-led statements and actions, which is a workshop I like to do with leaders and leadership teams to determine what are your values and what are you leading with? What are your value-led statements? How do you create those values that you have into value-led statements and then to value-led actions that you will constantly go to throughout the year to help ground you in your decision making, right? So, for example, if transparency is a core value, you should always communicate openly with your staff, even when the news isn't good. So, staying true to the values builds consistency, builds credibility, and trust, right? You have to be consistent in doing that. Again, if you are not aligned, and for example, I had a position where I was um not really happy, and we've all experienced this, right? Like, you're not happy at work, you don't feel like going in, it's not like what you're being called to do, it's just not, you know working for you. And when you're not feeling something at work, right, if it's not you're not feeling it anymore, something's off, you're miserable when you go in, take some time to reflect, right? Which is what this article is saying, is like, take time to reflect, because these feelings of mental exhaustion can create burnout. These feelings of being overwhelmed can create burnout. And that means you need a mindset alignment. You need to sit down and think about, what are my values? And are my values living in the work that I do? Because if you are doing work that is counter to your values, you are constantly going to be bumping, like, in in opposition of your spirit and your actions. That creates burnout. Okay. Being cognizant of those things and really taking note of how you're feeling and taking time. That's the most important thing. And especially in leadership, honey, I know we are always running out of time. It's always like we have to do things like yesterday. But there is value in slowing down. So slow down. The other thing is, so wait, before I move on to the other thing, share your thoughts. If you're watching the replay, share your thoughts, right? What are some questions that you have, some experiences that you can share in the chat or in the comments? Any encouraging plans that you have for your team or your staff to help with this value mining process, right? Even for yourself first, so that you feel comfortable in guiding your staff in this conversation. And if you don't, hit me in the DMs. I can guide you through that process. So reflecting on your past experiences is really critical for every role, right? Because it helps you connect to your why, right? And if we're talking about leading with purpose, you have to connect to your why. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments, okay? I share an example here in the article about growing up in a low-income household and the value that was instilled in me about school and education, right? And then becoming a leader, how that fell into like lived and breathed in my leadership role. The article goes on to talk about becoming more self-aware and how becoming more self-aware helps you tap into your values and the actions related to your values in a real meaningful way, in a purposeful way, right? Because you want to lead with purpose. Let's talk about how to apply the values as a leader. So creating a value-driven school is so critical. Your values set the tone for your school. Your actions and your values must align, right? So your values are setting the tone for the school. Culture is a big concern and challenge for schools and in education in general right now. The culture and the tone that is being set in district offices, state departments, school buildings, right? It needs some work. It definitely needs some work, and we know this. So when you prioritize respect and inclusion, you inspire your staff. You inspire your staff and the people around you who are watching you lead to do the same. So it's not just about setting rules, right? It's about living those values every single day. Communicating your values is absolutely crucial, right? Let your team know what you stand for and why. Share stories and examples that illustrate these values in action. This will help everyone understand and buy into a vision that you're creating together, right? And again, there is a practice of doing this where you are value mining, identifying your values, creating these value-led statements, and then the actions that model these statements, right? And so just to share a little data point, that there's some research from the Center of Creative Leadership that showed that leaders who invest in understanding and aligning their core values are perceived as more effective by their teams, right? The study found that 67% of teams with leaders who practice value mining reported higher levels of cohesion and collaboration, as the leaders were better able to create a shared sense of purpose and action. 67% of the teams, right? That's pretty significant. So if you value, for example, let's go back to integrity. If you value integrity, you demonstrate it in all of your interactions, right? So, for example, there was a time when, and as leaders, we're human, we make mistakes. There have been times, not more than one, where I've made a mistake and had to publicly admit my mistake to the community. I mean, it wasn't easy because no one wants to admit that they're wrong about something, right? Because it doesn't feel good. right? That's the discomfort that you have to go through, but that discomfort is stretching you and growing you like it did me. But it showed my team in the community that accountability is a non-negotiable value for me. If I'm holding myself accountable and can publicly admit a mistake, I'm expecting that from my team as well, right? It shows the community that I am operating in integrity because I am being true to who I am, admitting that I made an error in some way, shape, or form, right? So actions like these speak louder than words and have a real lasting impact. So I'm going to go to the article here and show you the actual process. Let me backtrack. Let me go back before I show you the process. I want to nope, let me show you the process. So reflecting on values that matter to us is an important step, right? The process I like to call love, LOVE, right? You can start, I encourage you to start with the love process, which is to list, organize, value, and evaluate. So list your core values, the ones closest to your heart and mind. Just brain dump them. I know with some teams that I work with, I have to provide a list because sometimes they run out of it may be difficult to find the right words. So I do provide a list. So if you want to look up a list of words and then brain dump, you can do that, right? Then organize them by theme. This is where some of the discomfort may emerge, right? Ask questions why for each of the themes. Once you start to categorize them into themes, ask why. Again, like when I started this conversation or this live, because it's not a conversation because you're not talking back. But when I started this live, I mentioned that a lot of times our values are born out of unpleasant situations, trauma, things of that nature, and a lot of times they're bred out of love and happy situations, which is great, right? And so when you are categorizing things in themes and you want to get to the root of why the core values are important, this may bring up some painful memories, right? Joyful ones too, but it may bring up some painful memories. This is where discomfort will come in. And this is where you really need to probably do this on your own and not with your team first, so that you can work through those things. And if you're doing it with a team, you have to allow time for the team to process. And you don't want personal stuff being aired, right? Because that's not the goal here. The goal is for people to really identify, know what their actual values are and identify them in these themes, right? And so this is how you can learn how to understand the why, right? You have to keep asking yourself why is this value important to me? Why is this something that, you know, it's important in my life and I hold very dear? So you have to start reflecting and thinking. So after some deep reflection, the V in love and the love process is you start to peel back the layers. You may identify honesty as a core value because integrity has taught you that people who are reliable and trustworthy are honest people, right? Or you may then reflect a value in leadership actions with transparent communication about budget, district messaging systems, and so on. It will become an expectation and commitment to be transparent with staff at all times, right? So you're taking your values, you're putting them together in some kind of theme to actually peel back the why. Pick 3 that you really want to unpack more and create these statements. And then it becomes your value led statement, right? I value integrity or I value honesty because it is important for me um, to develop trust among the people that I engage with so that I can perform my best, right? And then your value led action would be I commit to displaying trust by by being transparent with my staff and families and colleagues, and committing to doing what I say I'm going to do in a timely manner. And if I do not, I communicate openly and in a timely manner so that they can make adjustments if needed, right? So it's really important for you to identify those values. And then the E in the love process is each week you take time to evaluate. Just like anything else, when we're talking about data, is take time to evaluate how your value led actions and decisions are aligned to your core values. How does it feel when decisions or actions are made in opposition to it? Do you feel uncomfortable? Does your face get flushed? Does your heart start racing, right? Do you feel a sense of what are you feeling? If you're feeling joy and content and like you're working with a sense of purpose, then that probably means that your values and actions are aligned to one another, the things that you're doing in your work, right? Take note of those things. Commit to the actions that create this self-awareness, which means you have to slow down to go fast. You have to take out time to reflect. The only way that this is effective is if you take time to reflect so that you can see, like, okay, I see how all of these things are, like how all my values and actions are aligned to one another. I can see it. You'll start to see the connections once you take the time to reflect. Jot down in a journal. I would suggest keeping a journal. Some teams that I work with have started using journaling as a part of their every time the team comes together, which is impactful because then they can see how they are progressing over time in terms of their reflection and the connection to their values and their actions, right? And so, my suggestion to you is to now, well, first, before I go on with another suggestion, is tell me what you're thinking right now. Like, I know that this process requires time, it requires some scaffolding, honestly. Um, and it requires you to be truly honest about who you are, where you are, and what you want. And sometimes that can make us feel uncomfortable as humans, right? It is what it is. Sometimes we just feel extremely uncomfortable with that. And it's okay as long as you are honest with yourself. But the most critical piece here that I want to continue to hit home is you absolutely must take time. Take time to reflect every single day, every single week on your values and your actions once you sit down and you create this value led statement and action, at least 3 for the year to kind of guide you in your decision making process. And you'll see that once all of your decisions are really grounded in these things, in your values, those 3 values, and in your actions, your value led actions, you will see um, how it's developing your culture and how your staff and family and community, your team, how they begin to work and engage with you because they see your consistency and develop, and you are now establishing trust with them. So share your thoughts. What are you thinking right now? Have you considered doing this before? How far did you get? What were some of the things that made you pause when you were doing this in terms of thinking about your values and actions and the alignment, the mindset alignment that's needed? Share your thoughts. I really love to hear your comments because this topic is really um, near and dear to me, right? Before moving on to what I'm going to ask you to do and commit to, I want to share another piece of data with you. I did some more research, and a study published in the Journal of Business Ethics found that leaders who clearly communicate and act upon their core values foster greater trust and engagement among employees. The research indicated that 79% of employees reported higher levels of job satisfaction and commitment. There's a word, commitment, which is a challenge that we are seeing right now in education. That they reported seeing higher levels of job satisfaction and commitment when they perceived their leaders as value driven and authentic in their actions, meaning that they can trust them, right? And that's what we want. Without trust, You can't lead anybody anywhere. So here's what I have for you to do next. This is what I want you to do. I need you to take a moment for reflection. I need you to think about your core values and how they currently influence your leadership. Okay? Then I want you to ask yourself, are these areas where I can align my actions more closely with my values? Let me repeat that. That's what I want you to do. I want you to take a moment for reflection. And then I want you to think about your core values and how they currently influence your leadership right now. The love process in the article, read that and do that. If you have any questions, I can walk you through that process. But right now, this is a simpler step. Reflect, think about your core values and how they currently influence your leadership. And then ask yourself this question: are there areas where I can align my actions more closely with my values? Okay. I challenge you to identify one value-driven action you can take this week, because it's Monday. So you can do something this week, right? What is one value? Pick one value, and how are you going to live that value out this week? Maybe it's a conversation you've been avoiding, right? Or a policy that you need to advocate for. Whatever it is, take that step. Your values are your compass, right? It's going to guide you through the challenges and the successes of of leadership. Stick to your values. You will not go wrong. I promise. Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I will share the article in the comments. And thank you for joining or watching the replay. And remember to follow me for more information, for more content on value-driven leadership and how to use data in a real meaningful way, to have, to lead, to learn how to continue to lead with purpose and how to clarify, like create that clear and clarifying goal, right? Of why you're leading. So follow me for more content and feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. So I need you to keep going, leaders, right? We need you. Do not give up at all. Thank you for joining today, and I will see you next Monday. Okay? Have a fantastic week. And if you have any questions, please reach out and direct message me or contact@drivenllc.com. Have a great afternoon, everybody.